Welcome in, everybody. Today is Tuesday, the 28th of January, 2020. I'm Kerry Holzman, and welcome back. If you just joined me from a previous video, I had a little hot news item to share with all of you, and now I've got other work that has to be done, and I thought I would share with you one of the unique aspects of what I do. Occasionally, viewers such as yourselves will mail me product you no longer want that can be reused. It's got to be a certain minimum level of product. And a gentleman named Michael Brooks has sent me a CPU, some RAM, a motherboard, and I guess a Blu-ray player for some reason, I don't know. But all these parts are obsolete. The CPU was a returned CPU that I guess he had that had to go back to Intel, and then Intel sent him the replacement, which is basically a brand new box CPU from that era, and then said, "Hey, do you want it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll put it to use somewhere." He goes, "I'll send you a motherboard." The motherboard isn't made or available apparently anywhere he looked, so he went to eBay, which is something I would never ever do, and it came from Czechoslovakia apparently. CZ? What's CZ? Is that Czechoslovakia? The country origin said CZ. Czechoslovakia, does that still exist? I think it does. Anyway, is it Croatia? What is CZ? Czech Republic? I don't know. Look, all I know is the board came from out of the country, which makes me nervous as far as any warranty is concerned. The RAM was packaged in a bubble envelope with no protection whatsoever. It was just like a little envelope about this big with little bubbles, little packing bubbles. So I'm nervous as heck. Now look, guys, and I want to emphasize this. It puts me in a bit of a unique situation. On the one hand, I want to thank Michael for sending me product. On the other hand, this is never product I would buy, nor is it product I would give away to people. Under ordinary circumstances, I would rather not take the risk, because I want to give somebody something, or I want to sell somebody something that isn't going to make me look bad. It isn't going to work for 6 weeks and stop working. I want to do everything in my power to ensure that the quality of everything I'm using is up to the standards that won't backfire and make me look bad, regardless of the best of intentions. So I always ask people to reach out to me first before they send me anything, and now I have to test this, right? Because now I don't trust the RAM. It's going to have to thoroughly be tested. I don't trust that motherboard at all, based on the fact it came from out of the country. Furthermore, even if it passes all the tests, the minute I give it to somebody, they have a minimum expectation that that's going to work for a certain period of time without trouble. I can't guarantee it. There's no warranty expressed or implied from buying stuff off eBay, apart from whatever the manufacturer warranty may be. And if the manufacturer knows that that part was designated for another country, then the warranty may not apply at all. So it's hard to know the source of these components, and when you're shopping for the cheapest price, understand you may be getting something called gray market. So gray market falls between what's intended with warranty in your country and what may be sold and intended for another country. And it's identified by the product serial number. Different countries have different requirements with regards to warranty, and different economies. So what price of something may be in one country might be cheaper to buy it there, but then you have no warranty. This was huge in the 80s and 90s with digital SLR, or just cameras in general. Not not digital, but single lens reflex 35 millimeter cameras. You could buy them really cheap out of these places. A lot of places in New York would sell these gray market cameras, where it was essentially the same camera, slightly different model number that you've never seen before in your country, like here in the United States. It'd be a model that looked exactly the same as a model sold here, slightly different on the model number, but everything else was the same. And about $100 cheaper, and basically no warranty from the manufacturer. If you want to gamble to save a few dollars, you're certainly welcome to do that. I'm not here to tell you not to. But because I run a business and because I have this public place where I'm constantly being judged and measured by people, voluntarily subjecting myself to unnecessary ridicule or harassment based on trying to save a few dollars isn't worth my job. It's not worth my reputation. And if you tell somebody I was just trying to help you, that's of little help to them, right? Oh, I was just trying to help. Well, next time, don't help me. There is a benefit to charging people for services, because when you accept that liability, whether or not you choose to accept it, you have it. At least then you've got a benefit, reward for doing it, in the sense that when I buy product from manufacturers, I have a known warranty from the manufacturer. So if there is a problem with the product months down the road, that product will be covered by the manufacturer. And that's why I choose certain manufacturers over others, is to ensure that I know, in the rare occurrence that such a quality manufacturer has a problem, they've got my back and they'll take care of me. And by taking care of me, I'm taking care of my customer. The customer may be upset at the inconvenience, regardless of how fast I fix it. No matter how much money it costs me in time or money, the customer is inconvenienced nonetheless. And that turning out as best as it could be, in a best case scenario, the downtime is minimized, everything's back up and running. The customer still may have doubts about ever wanting to order another computer from me, even though all I did, in this case, is put it together. They just know they bought a computer from car-ey, they just know it didn't work, or after a period of time stopped working. And regardless of how quickly, or how the fact that it cost them no money for me to fix it, they were without the computer during that time. In the meantime, I have customers saying, take my money, and I have to say, I can't right now. I got to help somebody who paid me 2 months ago for free in order to do the right thing and save my reputation, and hope that they'll recognize the security that I offer when they buy from me. I'm not a gambler. I don't gamble with my business. I'm not going to shave $10 off the price and take on all that added risk. It's not worth it to me. I'd just rather get out of business. Now, what you do for yourself at home, that's your business and it's your deal, right? When it becomes my problem, then there's a problem. Your problems aren't my problems. Unless you pay me to make them mine, I have enough of my own. So there's enough on YouTube of people that just do whatever the heck they want to for themselves. In fact, that's pretty much most YouTube tech channels. There's just not enough, in my opinion, of real working people who hold liability and accountability for the work that they do and are paid to do. And as such, it is my goal to make sure that my viewers understand the difference between those two. Not that one has more value over the other, but it feels to me a lot of times like liability doesn't exist. That just, there's no YouTube channels, or very few YouTube channels in the tech area that talk about it. And if you want to get into this as a career, or you want to start just a small little business on the side, you are going to eventually run into an issue, I can guarantee it, that will make you suddenly understand every single word I just said. So I hope that you can accept the information as it's offered. I make no profit, nor do I lose any money whether or not you choose to accept the information as truth or as viable. However, it is my duty, the way I see it, my obligation to you, my audience, to make sure that you are fully aware of the information that is not necessarily being delivered to you on YouTube in this regard. So, with that said, because the source of these parts and the way that they were shipped is so suspect, I've got them here on the table. I want to fire everything up and make sure initially that it boots up and it posts. I need to run memtest 86 probably overnight on that RAM just to make sure. And I'll check to see if there's a new BIOS update, and we'll make sure the new CPU works, which I'm sure it does. I don't have any use for that Blu-ray player, so we'll set that aside for now. I'm sure it'll come up in something. And then eventually, maybe next month or the month after, we can throw this all into a case and then give it away to a disabled American veteran And that is what Michael has intended for these parts, and we will see that through if we're not causing more harm to the person receiving the computer. If I've determined that these parts are not reliable, it will not be something I hand off to anybody, forget for price. It won't even be worth the cost of shipping it. It's not my goal to make somebody's life miserable. Giving somebody something is not automatically a good thing. I don't want your debt. I don't want your cold. I don't want your virus. Be very, very careful when you're offering things to people for free. There's a reason why people charge. And it has to do with protection, and it has to do with liability. And whether or not you choose to accept a liability has no impact on what the law is. So depending on where you live, I can only just tell you that you probably think it's never going to happen until it happens. Okay, I'm all dreary today, huh? It's just denying reality doesn't make reality change. So people go, and then they dismiss it. You get what you deserve. Just because you get away with something doesn't mean you'll always get away with it. A certain habit that's repeated, that's ill-advised, will eventually, more than likely, catch up to you in a very negative and powerful way. So I'm just advising you to be cautious. That's all. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm suggesting you be cautious over how you offer help to other people and what you advise. So I'm going to set the Blu-ray drive over here because I don't need it today. So this is a brand new Core i7 7700. So it's a few years old, socket 1151. Right there. And the tape is all sealed. It's never been opened. This came straight from Intel. So I have confidence that this chip is going to be okay. One, because it's a chip and they very rarely go bad. Two, because it's sealed. And three, because it came from Intel USA. And if I lived in Japan, I'd want it from Intel Japan. You see what I'm saying there? Or from an official importer. So there's our Go Faster sticker and documentation, which of course would be included in a brand new product. And then our chip right here, let's slide that out. And I think as far as the fan goes, yeah, I guess we can put this fan on it. So let me just set some of this stuff aside here. We'll make some room to take the motherboard out of the box. This is the Gigabyte H110D3A motherboard. Obviously, it's a 110 socket. It looks brand new. I see a sealed SATA cable. I see the motherboard is the bag taped shut. The bag is taped shut, so it looks like it's never been used. We have the standard Gigabyte multi-language installation guide, driver DVD, there's a pamphlet, which is like a quick installation, and then a sealed I/O shield. So this appears to be all brand new. Now my anxiety is going down a little bit. A little bit. Get some scissors out. We'll cut this tape here. Here's a close-up of the board, brand new out of the package. See, that way's right side up. Does have an M.2 socket on there, an 8-pin CPU power. Only 2 sockets for RAM. That's interesting. Usually a board this size would have 4. Look how many little PCI, look at those little tiny PCI Express slots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. and some Molex connector up there for some weird reason. I guess the power, additional power to the PCI Express slot. A strange design. I've never quite seen anything like that before. And a parallel port. When's the last time you saw a parallel port and a serial port? Look at that. And the only built-in video out is VGA only. Holy smokes. This would not have sold. I bet you this never sold in the United States. I suspect the H110D3A was not available in the United States. I could be wrong. I've never seen a motherboard like this since the 90s. And when I say that, I mean the slots, or the early 2000s. The number of tiny PCI Express by 1 slots, as well as the addition of the parallel port, are typically not found on Gigabyte products in the US, to the best of my knowledge, for many, many years in the United States. I could be wrong. I just don't recall seeing a board that had USB 3.0 had a USB 3.0 header and a parallel port. I've never seen that combination. Usually something that has USB 3.0 is fairly modern, and something that has a parallel port is fairly old, like decades. So let's keep on moving forward with this. I will put the CPU in right now. So we'll lift up the lever. We'll take the CPU out of its container right here. And we'll set that in just like that. And we'll bring this down, close it up. And we'll put the heatsink, the stock heatsink and fan on. I have to tell you, the other benefit from buying products in your own country not only is the support, but quite often certain products are more popular in certain countries. And as a result, things tend to work better together. Different components that are popular in your country, they're popular for a reason. It's because they work well together in most cases, not because they're cheap. And when the minute you start working on saving money, in most cases, you're adding to the technical complexity of the project because the products may not work well together or may not have been tested together. So if you're a very technical person who enjoys a challenge, that can be kind of a fun project. But if you're a first-time builder, you may never want to build again after months, what could be months and months of frustration trying to figure out how to make something work that I make look so easy on video. And the reason you may have struggled is because you did not buy the same components or the same level of components that I'm purchasing. Obviously, if you buy exactly what you see in my videos for my normal builds, not this stuff, but my normal build videos, and you do everything exactly the way you see me do it, then you can expect to have the same results. I get a lot of people who say, I did everything the way you do it and it didn't work for me. Almost every single time, the people that say that did not follow my steps. One of my favorite ones is somebody says, I did everything right, but it's still not working. No, you didn't do everything right. Well, there's a chance they could have a bad component. It's probably because they mishandled the component. But most of the time, it's not a bad component. Most of the time, it's something very, very simple that they were looking at it, but they weren't seeing it. Then eventually they see it and they go, never mind, Carrie, I figured it out. I cannot tell you how many times it happens to me. It's a lot. All right, where's the CPU fan header? That's system fan up here. CPU fan has got to be here somewhere. Oh, it's all the way over here. They changed the design. Wow. Wow. Okay. So we're gonna take this back off of here, and I'm gonna rotate it. That's very interesting. I don't have to, but I want this cable that powers the fan, I want it to be closest to the fan header so it doesn't wrap around the fan or You know, first of all, it's ugly cable management. Secondly, it can get caught up in the fan. It can interfere with the fan. That's never any fun. What's interesting, though, is I've often complained on these motherboards here in the US, generally have the Intel logo installed upside down. And furthermore, why can't Intel just give us the sticker and let us put it on there so we can mount the heatsink any way we want? You know, if you've got a case with a window and you want to see that straight up, who can blame you? But doing so means more or less tearing the label or putting some sticker over it. So I'm going to turn this around this way. Well, that thermal compound spread quick. Usually it doesn't spread like that until it gets hot. But we've never turned it on, so it's no big deal. And what I want to do now is just do a little wire management on this cable right now while it's in my face. And we'll throw a nylon zip tie on there. And nylon zip tie on here. If any of these products don't work, they will not be worth the postage to send them back to the manufacturer, even if they were covered under warranty, because suddenly free becomes expensive. Whether it's taking up room in my office, going to the post office, paying for the shipping, and that often just leads from one problem into the next one. It's usually an early indicator that this is going to be an issue for a long time, and it's likely not your last issue. So for a system that's already this old, if it works, wonderful. We'll test it thoroughly. If it passes all the tests, we can safely give it away. Most people would say, what do you care, just give it away. Well, again, it affects my reputation. If I give away a computer and then somebody's house burns down, and some forensic examiner says the fire started at the computer, it doesn't matter if they got it for free or not. Guess who's going to get a phone call? This guy. So at a certain point, if you're not making a profit, your liabilities are for free. Don't make sense when people typically pay you for those same liabilities. Now, I'm not saying it's likely to happen. It's just the idea that if I never gave you the computer, I guarantee it never will happen. If I do give you the computer, it probably won't happen. See the difference? So why am I enduring that added liability? Again, it's a confusion with home users versus businesses, but even home users can be held liable. It's typically not done, but it can be. In the United States, you can sue anybody at any time for any reason, and you will have to pay to defend yourself. So I tend to be a bit cautious, and I only give away things to people that I would sell, if that makes any sense. If I can't sell it, I won't give it away. It'll go to a recycling yard, or it will go to a personal friend that I know will never come after me if something bad happens as a result of the gift. Here's the RAM that Michael had sent. It's a good name brand RAM, and you know they stand behind their product over at Crucial. And so we'll go ahead and plug this in now. Another thing you can do if you want to avoid liability is to donate the computer to a charity or to take it to a charitable organization such as Goodwill. Well, I guess Goodwill's a for-profit, but regardless, then they accept the liability. And of course, they're a big, big company that makes hundreds of millions of dollars, and they have all the insurance in the world to protect them against the used goods that they sell causing any harm that would result in a lawsuit. I'm sure Goodwill has been sued countless times over the years here in the United States over used product that they've sold, and they more than likely have insurance to cover such a circumstance. And of course, if you have that kind of insurance, then move boldly forward. If you don't, Well, you might want to ask yourself why you're putting yourself in that position. Okay, let's get some, does this thing have graphics built into it? Yep. So I can put a VGA to HDMI adapter on there. I hate using those because they require external power to go from an analog signal to a digital signal. I've got to convert to HDMI, which is super easy when the signal's digital, like a DVI or a display link to HDMI is very simple. VGA to HDMI is a little more complicated. So let's see, there's CPU, that's motherboard power. Let's do CPU power next. That's right here. We'll plug that in right here. Anybody who thinks I'm making a big deal out of it is clearly not speaking from experience about this whole issue of liability. It's super easy to talk about something you have no experience in. You can sit on the couch and tell me it's all overblown, it's all made up, it's all very unlikely. That's the easiest and most lazy thing anybody can do. And that's fine. You're certainly welcome to believe anything you want to believe and to inject yourself into risky situations because you feel like the right thing is more important to do. I don't want to stand in your way. I just don't want you to be surprised or be blindsided. I want you to understand the possibilities that you're inviting when you do that. And if it's worth it to you, go ahead. So like I said, how I treat people I know personally and have known a long time, that's a different situation than any sort of advice or transaction with a complete stranger. Okay, so that's turned on. I guess I'm going to need a keyboard and a mouse and some way to connect VGA to HDMI. VGA to HDMI. I think I have an adapter back here. I used to have one. If I can find it, it's big. Well, it's gnarly. It's ugly. It's not just a one cable thing. Like I said, it's got to have power. It's got like a USB cable to get power from the USB port. I cannot remember what the heck I did with it. I know I've got one. I've got one here somewhere. Maybe it's under all this dust. Let's see. That's not it. That's not it. Hang in there, guys. Got a pile here. That's HDMI. More HDMI. USB. Where did it go? I used to have it. Well, I have another solution, which would be to bring a monitor out and plug it into the VGA port of the monitor, which is hard to film. I can slap a video card in it. Joy of free. See, this is another reason I would have never done this for myself. It's adding to the amount of work I've got to do that I would have said, you know what, this is not work efficient, and the amount of money being saved here is costing me more money and time than I really have to spend right now with everybody waiting on me. This is probably not the best time for me to do this. I thought this would be quick. But I've already come so far, I can't stop now, so I've committed to it, and I've got to see it through. Okay. If I could just find an adapter. I know I've got one. I don't know what I did with it. Probably said, oh, nobody's going to bring me anything with VGA anymore. I don't need that. Probably did that a long time ago. Because it's gnarly. It's just messy. I don't know. I'm not sure. Not quite sure. What a bummer. surprised there's no HDMI out, but I'm also surprised there's a parallel port, so it's full of surprises today. Let me think. Let me think. What is this up here? Maybe just slap a graphics. Oops. Yeah, why not? This graphics card here. Sorry, my mic fell off. Whew, that takes a lot of power. It was the GTX 980 Ti. I need to clean the dust off of that. I really don't need anything that big. There's got to be something else I can use. Gosh, it kills me to not know where that adapter is. I'm going to have to go on Amazon and order another one. And you know, as soon as it arrives, I'll find it, and I'll never need it again. More added expense, more things to categorize and organize. With the intent being, I want to give you something. Thanks. That's what I wanted, more work. No, I do appreciate the contribution. I do. I just wish it was a better contribution. Who doesn't? Wait a minute, is this it over here? Hold on, guys. I'm digging around back in my office, and I am just buried in parts back here. I thought maybe it might be here. No, that's not it. Nope. That's not like me to not place it somewhere where I could easily find it. And I'm live, so there's no pressure to hurry up. All right, well, it is what it is. By the time I dig around and find it, I could have had this plugged in and turned on already. Okay, we're gonna need a couple of 8-pin video power cables right here. Let's see. Okay, I think we're ready to hook things up. We've got power. Plug into your monitor at home. Got the RAM, got the cooler, got the power switch. I need a keyboard and a mouse. Let me grab that. Got that right here. We'll just use any USB port, right like that. I wonder if this board's going to post in English. One way to know for sure, let's go to camera 2, and I will put myself in the corner up here. I'll put myself right up in there. Okay, so that's all set. Flip the switch to the power supply to on, and here we go. Hit the power switch. Hitting the power switch, and nothing. Oh, you know what? This board may have different pinouts than motherboards I'm accustomed to. It certainly appears that that is not the power switch location. Oh, sorry. I'm on the wrong set. That's the power LED. I know that. How about now? Still nothing. Okay. Found it. So fans are spinning. Graphics card fan is spinning. CPU fan is spinning, and hopefully we'll get a post here on the screen in just a moment. It may take a couple moments. There we go. Good start. Again, as I test, my anxiety is going down. I'm like, okay, this is looking normal. It's in English. Let's see what version of BIOS we have here. Version F24 on the H110D3A. And let's take a look at Google. We'll type in H110D3A BIOS into Google. And the first link Google offers us is gigabyte.com and brings up this motherboard. And I will then click on the support button for this board and look under the downloads under the BIOS subheading to see that the latest version is F25. So I'm going to go ahead and download F25, which has just been completed, and I'm going to extract the download to its own folder. And now I'm going to take just the BIOS file and place it onto a flash drive from the streaming computer. We'll just take the main, there's like 3 files inside of the zip file that we just grabbed. We just need the file that ends in F25, and we will copy that and paste it onto that flash drive, just that single .f25 file. And then we'll safely eject the flash drive. And now I'm going to install the flash drive into any available USB port here on the board. Like that. That's the CPU fan you can hear. The fans on the graphics card have stopped spinning. The CPU fans that come with Intel i7s, they're just noisy. I mean, this thing isn't even working yet, and it's already screaming at me. So now, let's go back to my screen here. And down here, we have QFlash, update BIOS. It sees the flash drive in the F25. Double click on that, I guess. We'll do intact, and it's updating now. Now we just sit and wait, don't touch anything. Seems to be some discussion regarding Goodwill. One of the richest people in America is the CEO of Goodwill. Google that and find out how much money. Can anybody in the chat room tell me how much money the nonprofit Goodwill chief executive officer made last year? Anybody? Before you start feeling sorry about Goodwill being a charitable organization, remember the people that work for Goodwill draw salary. And the CEO of Goodwill is one of the highest paid CEOs in America, to the best of my knowledge. But you can Google that. Double check me. All right, we are, it says it's updating the BIOS now. Again, we're just going to wait. I don't know why Gigabyte doesn't show us. They put too much text below the little diagram. So we don't see the U in updating, and we don't see the second number in the percentage. It looks like it's in 80% right now. I don't know what their engineers are thinking we're going to be able to see when they do that. Like if they'd have gotten rid of those 3 little ellipses there, we would have had plenty of room. DHR Street Speed says the CEO of Goodwill made $729,000. Well, that's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. However, I guess where the offense comes in, I think this whole thing was up for discussion, I think in Forbes magazine or something, when they were talking about the highest paid CEOs in America. And I want to say this was a few years ago. And this was quite the topic for discussion because a lot of people were under the impression that, you know, the good and goodwill meant they were giving that money back, that people were obviously earning a salary, but it wasn't so offensive. I think he's reduced it since that story. I could be remembering it wrong, but I thought it was in the millions. And DHR Street Speed says that's salary only. Okay, so it doesn't include bonuses and stock options and things like that, if such a thing exists. Okay, so the BIOS update's completed, and now I'm going to turn the machine off so I can take the flash drive out. And I'll set the flash drive aside. I will erase that flash file because I'll never, ever use it again. And I feel a little better knowing that the board works. I don't think I'll ship it with that CPU. I'll probably put I don't like using the Hyper 212 Evos anymore. And somebody sent me one of those they didn't want, so I'll probably put it on there. It's a pain to put on, but on a system that can be as loud as this, like I said, I won't give away anything that I wouldn't sell, and I wouldn't sell it like this. This GTX 980 Ti, this is going to go into a machine for Valentine. I'm just going to give it to him. He's a disabled American veteran, and he's buying a machine from me, and I wanted to do something for him. So he doesn't, game or anything like that, but he does some video editing and stuff, and this video card will be like way overkill for him. So I needed to get this card out and dust it off anyway for that project. Now, Ryan in Nevada also sent a motherboard. Ryan didn't know that Michael was sending me a board. Here, you know what? Let me go full screen so I can talk to you. So now I've got two boards that will work with this chip, and I think I still have a Celeron. I'm sure I have a Celeron that'll work, and I'm sure I have some spare RAM that'll work. So we'll be able to use Ryan's board as well. So let me, so I have a decision to make. Do I want to dismantle this? I suppose I'm satisfied with this for what it is. I may want to use Brian's board rather than this one. I still may end up not using this board. I just don't like the layout of it. I don't like the fact it's VGA output only. Although anybody that I would donate it to would more than likely have a VGA monitor. It's not likely they're going to have some fancy 4K DisplayPort monitor and ask me for a free computer, right? It's not likely. It's possible. But those people shouldn't be asking for a free computer because they clearly have it a lot better than others who would benefit more so from receiving a free PC. So we're going to dismantle this. And I will set this aside over here. Make sure the switch is off on the power supply. I should have done that first. Shame on me. And I'm going to pop this RAM out of here. Now remember, even though this machine posts, it doesn't automatically mean the RAM is good. However, it's a good start. It still has to be checked. I am not happy with how this RAM was shipped. Okay, so I'm going to pull all this off, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other motherboard, and we'll see. Like, to me, this is more of a Celeron board anyway. It's not really a good i7 board for the reasons I've already mentioned. So I'm just twisting these little towers in the direction of the arrow, and that allows me to then unlock them and pull them up. so that this can be placed down again, but you have to turn the towers again in the opposite direction of the arrow, so the next time I push them down, they will lock. So in the direction of the arrow to remove the heatsink, opposite direction of the arrow to install the heatsink. I've had first-time builders, first thing they do when they take the heatsink out of the box is they twist these little towers in the direction of the arrow. And they, no. The way it comes out of the box, you just set it down and it locks. But they think that the arrow indicates a requirement for installation, when in fact it's a requirement for removal. So now I'm going to gently take this out of its socket somehow. I will figure that out. And we'll just place it here. I don't normally like to set it down that side first. However, it's got thermal compound all over the top of it. And I'm trying to avoid making a mess. And then we're going to cover that socket back up to make sure that it stays protected and it won't be damaged. It's a delicate socket when it's exposed. And then we will put this motherboard. Do I still have the anti-static bag? Yes, I do. We'll put this back in its anti-static bag. And we know that we've tested and updated it, and it's good inventory as far as for the right project, you know, for the right conditions, giving everything I've said about liability, keeping all that in mind. Just put this stuff on top of it. Okay. And now I'll set this back here, and we'll grab the board that Ryan sent. So Ryan watches me from Nevada, and he sent a few parts in the past. And I think Ryan's the one who actually sent me all those Celeron processors. This is an MSI motherboard. Now, Ryan says it's brand new. It's never been used. He doesn't really explain why, but it clearly matches his description. I/O shield's never been opened. SATA connectors, everything is there. I/O shield, I already said the I/O shield. Now, this is a 200 series, so it's not quite as obsolete. Down there for now. There's nothing that I find more painful personally, and this is just my inner thoughts here, than watching somebody struggle with old, outdated hardware that's slow and the potential identity theft waiting to happen, and then justifying it because they don't have any money. But the fact that they're using an internet connection and paying for the electricity to turn it on suggests to me they just don't want to spend the money. I think that buying an off-lease computer for as little as $140, $160 is something anybody who really wanted to could save that up, but they would rather spend it on cable TV or Netflix or, now look, I don't know everybody's living scenario, but I do know there are things around the house you can sell. You can go on Craigslist, you can go on Facebook Marketplace, and there should be a way that you can drum up $140 in junk that you no longer want, that you will miss, so that you can finally replace that old beaten computer. But if it's not that important to you, obviously you're not going to do it. So it's really hard for me to feel sympathy from some of the stories I hear from people, although legitimately there are a handful of those that, you know, I can sympathize with. There are some people that are in some really bad situations through no fault of their own. But if it was me, I would have bigger concerns than a newer computer. However, identifying those people from the identifying people who are able-bodied and just unwilling from those who are not able-bodied but fully willing sometimes can be a challenge. And so I generally leave that to you guys, the audience, the community, to decide who gets the computers. It also gets me out of the loop when I get these emails from people that want to tell me their personal sob stories and ask me if I'll send them a computer for free. And I explain to them I don't select people to receive free computers. That's selected by the community. Go tell, if you want to tell your sob story to the community and why you think you deserve a computer, and they agree with you, then I'll be sending it because the community is providing these computers. I'm just the middleman. And I'm glad to be the middleman because I don't want that responsibility to have to pick who should be the recipient, who's the one who will benefit the most. Who knows? If I don't know you personally, you know, clearly by default, any disabled American veteran should be deserving in and of itself. But not all disabled American veterans are disabled equally. So those who would receive the most benefit should get the opportunity first. That's the logic I'm using. And how do you determine that? And so I just leave that to the community. I think it's the most politically correct thing I can do and enables me to live with my conscience. And eventually, hopefully, we give away enough of these that when I ask who wants one, nobody wants one because they'll have something equal to or better than at home already. Wouldn't that be a great situation to be in? And then beyond that, we can work outside the community. We can start to help others and hopefully bring them into our community. Okay, heatsink. Okay, where's the CPU power on this one? Right up here. Yep, upside down. There, that looks pretty good. Now this has VGA, DVI, and HDMI outputs. No parallel port. This is more along the lines of what I'm expecting and what I've been expecting for over 10 years when it comes to a new board, or at least a modern. I would define that as modern. And in fact, I would define that other board as modern, but it seems to have this weird mixture of antiques put on it for some reason. Okay, so now we're ready to turn this one on, and we'll try the onboard video on the CPU to make sure that that's functional as well. I gotta grab the right mouse. Oh, I didn't take the mouse off the other one, did I? Put it back in the anti-static bag with the mouse dongle on it. That's something I would do. Let me get that retrieved. Thank you. Right over here with it. Okay. All right, and then I will put myself back in a corner here. Switch is on, video input's ready to go, we're plugged in, hit the power, fan is turning. And let's wait for a post. Looks like it's going to do something. Good, good. F1 to run setup. And there's our BIOS, which is, does this give us a BIOS version? I think my video might be covering that up. Let's go down here and see. In fact, I'll go down in this corner. So it says we are running BIOS version. It's motherboard, PC made. There's our motherboard model. BIOS version 170. Just pay attention to that last bit from 2 years ago, from 11/16 of 2017. So once again, I'm going to go back to the streaming computer and I'm going to look up this make and model of board. So we're going to type in MS7A72 into Google. MS7A72 and then the word BIOS. And we'll take a look at the Google results that say support for Z370. No, hold on, which is this? It's a Z270 PC Mate, which is the very first link. And under BIOS, it says the current version was released on August 6th of 2018. Well, that's a lot newer. Improved USB compatibility, update Intel microcode for security vulnerabilities. It sounds like we want that. And then version 1.7, we have 1.70, so 1.7 is, you understand decimal points, right? So 1.7 is version 1.70, and that's 2 versions behind. We're at 1A. Excuse me a minute. Okay, and now that I have that file, we'll extract that one and just repeat exactly what we've already done. I'll extract the file. I want the file that ends in 1A0 in the extracted files. That's the only one we need. And I'll put it back onto this flash drive that I use for BIOSes. So when I plug it back in the streaming computer, the first thing I want to do is delete the other one off of there so I don't get confused. Because I was going to do that later, but I have to do it now so I don't confuse myself. And then we'll copy and paste the new BIOS file onto that same flash drive so that it only has one file on it at any given time. And that's to avoid any confusion when it comes time to select the file for flashing, that you don't accidentally pick the wrong file. The system shouldn't accept it. However, better to not have it if you don't need it and avoid a ugly scenario potential. With that, I should be able to, let's see, I might have to reboot this machine for it to see the flash drive. We're going to select M-Flash. System will auto reboot and enter flash mode. Do you want to enter flash mode? Yeah, well, that's different. I've never seen that before. Let's see what it does. Oh, that fan is awful. Yeah, that's our file right there. Click on it. You sure you want to select it? Yes. You're going to take that box, boy? Okay, you can have it. It says the BIOS is updating. I'll put myself over here. I'm not blocking anything. Yeah, I see you, boy. You got dog slobber all over that box now. He's got the internal cardboard that was below the motherboard in the original first board we took out. Now it's got dog slobber on it. When you're flashing the BIOS, just be patient. Don't touch anything. You know, if you're impulsive, walk out of the room. Whatever you got to do to avoid any temptation to interrupt this process. Depending on the board you've got, depending on the size of the BIOS file, depending on a number of variables will determine how long this takes. So there's no one set time, although generally it's not more than 10 minutes in a worst case, and usually closer to about 3 or 4 minutes on average. But you may not be average, or rather the motherboard you have. No, don't take that. That's the static bag. No. Stinker. Pick that up. I don't need your dog lick on that. So it's automatically rebooted on its own. I have not done that. And we'll just keep an eye on it here. It should restart. Well, it looks a little different, doesn't it? And it looks like it's restarted again. Again, I'm not doing that. It's doing it all on its own. And now it says that there's nothing to boot from it. And that's what we want to see. If I press Control-Alt-Delete, I should be able to hit the delete button and get us back in the BIOS, and we can verify the BIOS version has changed to what we put on there. It says it's entering setup. There we go. BIOS version is now 1A0, as you can see right there. So this definitely seems to be a much better board than the other one, and I think that pairs better with the CPU. Is it seeing all the RAM properly? No XMP support on the RAM. 2400 megahertz, 8 gigs and 8 gigs for a total of 16. Yeah, I'd say it's working good. Good. And this has two M.2 slots on it versus one on the other one, and this is a 200 series board versus a 100 series board. So the 100 series board would definitely be better off in Celeron land. And this is more i7 worthy since it's a Z270, meaning it's potentially used for overclocking as well. That's a pretty good board, Ryan. Thank you for sending it. It's a good CPU and it's good RAM. Thank you for that, Michael. Okay, Michael also sent a Dark Rock 600 case, which is big and heavy. We'll figure out what we're going to do with that. So again, it's the community that makes all this possible, and that's who you guys have to thank. I'm going to turn this off, hit the power switch here. And everything looks good. Everything's working. I'll have to erase this flash drive, as I said earlier. I'll still have to do that later. And I can erase those BIOS files that I downloaded so I don't confuse them on any future builds and projects. So make sure I delete those folders. And the files themselves, the original zip files. I will never need those ever again. Once you've installed your BIOS, you're done. Unless you have a series of similar computers that all are built the same, in which case you may want to utilize the same BIOS file. But otherwise, barring that particular scenario, which probably doesn't apply to most of you watching, you'll use it just one time. Bear Paw has contributed £2 and says that's for Jimmy and Lyle. Right on. Thank you, Bear Paw. Michael Dane contributed $20. Hey, nice contribution, Michael. Thank you. He says, Carrie, you're the greatest. Thanks to your videos. I just rebuilt another computer and gave it to a needy family with kids for homeschooling. Well, that's awesome, Michael. That makes me proud. I love to see people like that, like you, in the community. You don't have to be a rich person to be a generous person. Ben Stroud has contributed $2. He says, I hope you liked my build prices for the Mini ITX. Skyflyer14 contributed $5. He says, do you ever edit the fan settings in your BIOS, or do the default settings usually suffice? I don't make any changes in the BIOS because, unless it's absolutely necessary, these are not my computers. They're going to a customer. And if the customer were to update the BIOS or let the battery die on the system, or for whatever reason the BIOS gets reset and then the system doesn't boot or run properly anymore, I don't want that free support call. In other words, Customer's going to think he's not going to charge me to fix the computer that he built. All I did was update my BIOS, which reset it, and now the system won't boot anymore. People will create their own problems. One of the things you'll learn in business is to put everything in a way that reduces the odds the customer will need to call you. If you want to customize your own BIOS, you go right ahead and do it. You'll know the changes you made. My customers don't know anything about a BIOS. That means I have to go out manually and do it. There's no remote access for that. I have to get in my car, stop everything I'm doing, stop making money, start spending money on gas, risk getting into a traffic accident, put it on my schedule for when the customer's available and I'm available at the same time, and address pushing the button to make an adjustment in the BIOS. So I can turn around, get back in the car, and go back home. How does that make any sense for me? So again, what you do at home versus what you do in a business aren't necessarily the same thing, depending on if it's even something you want to deal with, you know. It's very frustrating. I talked about that with the RAID configuration. If you need to boot off of a RAID, and you've set that RAID up in the BIOS like I did with Ready, every time I update the BIOS, and there's been a lot of BIOS updates, I can't boot anymore, and I have to remember what the settings were and where the settings were and what order. Like there's one setting you have to turn on and restart, then another setting becomes available that wasn't previously available, and then it'll boot again. Anybody else running a regular single hard drive plugged in, it would just boot automatically regardless. You could reset the BIOS all day. Worse is if the customer calls another tech person for help. So let's say you bought a computer from me, and one day your internet stops working. So you call your internet service provider and they go, well, reset your router. And then they completely erase their Wi-Fi password, their SSID, and they can't get online anymore. Who do you think they call next? They call me. Reset your motherboard. And they reset the BIOS because the guy on the phone or the gal on the phone told them to. Who gets the next call? Me. So if all that can be left to default settings, that's to my advantage, including leaving XMP off. Although the system won't be in a situation where it won't boot if I give it to the customer with XMP on, and then they do something that resets the BIOS back to defaults, which then turns XMP off. The customer probably will never know. Most people who identify XMP are doing so only through benchmarks. Without benchmarks, you probably would never know. And there were people that will argue with that, and why those people are here thinking I can teach them anything when they already know everything makes no sense to me. But I can already forecast that. I can already see it. That's not my concern. Those aren't my customers. I don't make any money from those people, and if they know so much, they should have their own YouTube channel. But regardless of that, everything's working great here. I'm very happy with this particular configuration right here. So I'm going to save it just like that. I'll put it back in the box all assembled. So when I need it, it's ready to go. And when I have some time, probably in about 6 or 8 weeks, we've got at least 4 more of those Dells to give away for disabled American veterans. And then we can work on some of the custom stuff, which is just older parts laying around. It's not going anywhere. And that'll be a really nice system for somebody. I mean, that's no slouch. You know, Z270's just 1.5 generations behind, really. Well, 2 technically, but it's still fairly recent compared to most of the stuff that is given away. Brendan Looney contributed £2. Thank you to Brendan. Thanks, you guys, for contributing to the channel and helping to keep me sponsor free. John wants to know if you had a customer install an illegal version of XP after you installed the original PC version. No. I haven't seen Windows XP in years. If anybody called me and said they had Windows XP, sorry, I don't work on that. You'll have to call somebody else. I don't let the customers decide what my job is. You understand? I know what my job is. And if customers want me to do anything outside the scope of that, I don't do that. Asking me to work on Windows XP is like asking me to mow your lawn. I realize you're willing to pay me to do something. Your assumption that I'm willing to do it is preposterous. And some people get downright obstinate. They go, what do you mean you're not going to do what I say? I'm the customer. Like, you're not my customer. I don't want you to be my customer. You can go be somebody else's customer. Have a nice day. You're only my customer if I accept money from you. Otherwise, you're not a customer. Kathy says, Carrie, I got a free computer from a business and it won't boot to Windows 10. What can I do? Portions of the BIOS are password locked. Well, this goes back to what I talked about earlier, which is sometimes when you give somebody something for free, you're not doing them a favor. You're instigating a headache or a frustration that they wouldn't have had if you wouldn't have given it to them. The only advice I have to give you is to take it to some place where they can fix it for you. You can seek out free support like at techguy.org. We don't tell people how to get around passwords here because there's too many bad people in the world that will use that for bad reasons. And I don't want to be a part of it in any way, shape, or form. So I will not answer those kinds of questions. There are other people with different value systems than mine on the internet, and you can locate them. But that is your burden. There's nothing that bothers me more than somebody pulls something out of the trash and then asks me for my time to fix it. Like, if you accepted that, that's your problem and it's your responsibility. You get what you pay for. And another expression is, I want to thank everybody who ever told me no. It's because of them that I did it myself. Free really relies on you being self-reliant, or it relies on you having a source for somebody who can help you. If the company that gave it to you refuses to help you, question whether or not you want to take anything for free anymore from that source if it's going to leave you frustrated and helpless. It's a real tough place for me to be. But if you cannot afford people to work for you, then you have to be self-reliant. Rich people hire others to do stuff for them. Poor people do it themselves or they go without. Newcomer 8771's contributed $10. Says, Carrie, love the great work you're doing. I was wondering if you needed any PCs for the vets. I have a couple of i5 pre-builts that I need to get rid of and I'd like to donate them. Generally, I don't accept those because I don't know what I'm getting, and then by the time you pay for shipping to me and I pay for shipping to the recipient, we will have already paid for the machine in shipping costs. So if you were local to me, I'd say bring them over. But because you're not, I would say find a local organization that you can contribute those to yourself. And I don't need to be involved in it. And it's just and you'll get the feeling, you know what I mean? Like it's a wonderful feeling when you contribute and people appreciate it. And there are many organizations from police and military and other folks that are financially challenged for numerous reasons that you may choose as your recipient. You can decide who you think would most benefit from it and use the money that you would use to ship it to perhaps even buy another one and let somebody else locally in your area benefit from that. There's a lot of people who claim to be in need, and if you don't want the responsibility or the guiltiness of the guilty feeling of did I pick the right person, you can always just give them to a church or a school, or there's usually organizations, veterans organizations, things like that would be very grateful for your generosity. There's no sense making USPS or UPS or FedEx any richer because we're trying to do something nice. It's a very nice offer, and I'm encouraging you to do that locally and take full credit for it. And thank you for supporting the channel. I'm loving these questions. I'm hoping for more here. I have been getting slammed with people asking me about problems they're now getting that I've been warning people about, and they don't listen. What do I do? Like if you've told somebody and they've made a choice to not listen to you, and then they come crawling back for help, and you're busy helping other people, and they expect, I guess they feel treated like you don't think they're important. Well, why would I think you're important? You don't listen to me. It's just sort of back and forth between the service that I offer and the customers. So this customer reaches out to me. I haven't heard from this customer in months. Customer says, I just lost my job. Now this customer's had the same job, as far as I know, the whole time I've known them, probably 15 years. And in 15 years, I might have done 4 jobs, maybe 6 jobs. Like once every other year, thereabouts, I do 1 job for them, you know. In fact, the last 3 jobs I did remotely, didn't even send them a bill. Because I just know there's no point in this. This person, I'm never going to hear from them for a long time, and I don't want to put myself in a position that they feel I owe them anything. And they're like, bill me, be sure and bill me. I'm like, okay, and then I never do it. So a year goes by after they were, so I lost my job, and I want to install TurboTax, but my computer says it's not secure and it won't allow TurboTax to install. And I said, well, it sounds like you've got Windows 7, which I advised you to upgrade to Windows 10 probably for the last 3 years, and you didn't want to do it because your work-related software didn't work with it or something. Now I guess you've lost that job. Now, I'm not saying all this, but this is what I'm thinking. Now I guess you've lost that job, and now you're looking to maybe do taxes or accounting. Maybe you're just doing your own taxes. It's that time of year. And you're finding out that because you held on to Windows 7, now you can't do your own taxes. You're going to have to upgrade to Windows 10. And right now I am booked all through February, so March will probably be the earliest I can get to you. Remember, this is a customer I don't make any money from, so I'm going to use the word customer very lightly, and a customer who's already told me they don't have a job and says, please help me. So, look, you can really tug at me by saying, please help me. I want to help you. I don't want to be that cold businessman. It's like no cash, no service. I also don't want to be taken advantage of, and I also have paying customers who don't deserve to have to wait longer because I'm taking care of somebody else for free. So it's tough. There's some hard decisions that I have to live with. So basically I go, look, I'm booked right now. I'm slammed with a bunch of people running Windows 7. They're all getting the warnings, and now they want me to install Windows 10, and there's nothing I can do till March. Customer says, okay, call me when you have time. Do you think a month from now I'm going to have any memory of this at all? If that customer doesn't reach back out to me in March, I will forget they exist because I will have done 100 jobs between now and then of varying things, repairs, upgrades, builds. I think the customer will resolve it themselves between now and March. I think they don't want to. They just want to pass it off to me. Remember, and I'm going to keep saying this, that's what rich people do. Rich people delegate jobs to others that they don't want to do. Poor people have no choice. Either do the job or it will never get done. Your choice. I know. Do you know how I know? It's because I'm not a rich person. It's taken me a long time in my life to stop living that way. I was raised that way, so I didn't know any better. I don't want to live that way anymore. I don't want to scrape the bottom of the barrel. It was fine the first 25 years or 30 years of my life, 35 years of my life, 40 years of my life. Whatever it was far too much. And it's worth it to me to get into the middle of the barrel. I don't need to be at the top of the barrel. I don't need to be in 2% or the 1%. I would like to be what we used to call middle class. I don't even know what that is anymore, but I think middle class today got to make probably $100,000. If you're not making $100,000 in America in your 40s with a family and a house and cars and debts, then you have no money for a vacation. You have no money in your savings account. You're just living paycheck to paycheck, depending on where you live, right? If you live somewhere like San Francisco, you won't get by on $100,000. You're in poverty level. If you live somewhere in some little town in Idaho, finding a job that pays you that much is pretty incredible, and you'll probably be the rich guy in town. So perspective is everything, and I can only vocalize my own perspective accurately. And I can tell you that it's been a choice. If I had decided earlier I didn't want to live that way anymore, I wouldn't have, I would have not lived that way so long. I have since decided that living that way is unacceptable, and I just don't live that way. I don't live that paycheck to paycheck anymore. It's too stressful. I work too hard, and at the end of the week I got nothing. So I just decided, stop all the frivolous buying of crap. You know what happens when you buy a lot of crap? You got no place to put it. Then your house looks like a mess. Even if the house is clean, there's only so much room for stuff. And you're like, why do I have this? There's a couple of books I want to buy. And one of them is a book about arcade art. It's this long, narrow book with reproductions of arcade art, arcade marquees and little stories. Where am I going to put that book? It'll be fun to look at. When will I ever open it again? It's an odd shape. It won't fit on a bookshelf. My coffee table's already filled. Nobody else is interested in that. And it's like $70 for this book. So I'm thinking, I really don't need that book. There was another book I was looking at, The History of Atari. It's like $75, and it's this thick book going through the Atari computers, which brings back a lot of nostalgia and memories for me. But it's big and it's awkward shaped, and I'm going to look through it once when I have time, which may be a year or two from now. And in the meantime, I got to put it somewhere, and then it's going to get dusty, and it's going to have to be dusted. And as you pile on this unnecessary crap, as you continue to live paycheck to paycheck, at some point you hope a light comes on and says, maybe I should consider what I'm investing my money in and buy things that are not going to crowd up my house as trinkets. A lot of people buy collector's items only to sell those items later at a loss. Even if I had saved my Star Wars figures as a teenager and sold them today, it would be a couple $100 profit for storing something for 40 years. It doesn't add up. One Star Wars figure I had is worth maybe $100 because it was rare, but it was out of the box and played with, so maybe $100. So to store that somewhere, know where it is, and keep hauling it every time I move, so I can make $100, there's got to be a better way to make money than that. Maybe buy gold? I don't know. Some people, they got money in their pocket and they got to spend it. It's a tough habit to break. It's a really tough habit. So I can tell you this, though. When I really wanted something bad enough, I found a way to make it happen. I worked extra hours. I sold things around the house. That's how I was raised. If you're willing to sacrifice for something you want really, really badly, there's no limit to what you can't have. The only limit is, what are you willing to sacrifice for it? Jen wants to know if I can upgrade my Windows 7 install carefree to the latest version of Windows 10. If your Windows 7 install is legitimate, if it's legal, if it's home or pro versions of Windows 7, you can upgrade for free to Windows 10. And I have several videos here on the channel that walk you through the entire process. See if I missed any other question. Would you ever open up a shop for gaming PCs? No, that's not my thing. I find that most people that are gamers don't have a lot of money. And the people that do will generally buy Alienware or Falcon Northway, some, what are they called? Boutique builders that are massively overpriced in my opinion. I'm not interested in gouging people, so not my thing. Jitesh says, Carrie, I've created a video solution about the Outlook issue you were talking about yesterday on a 3-minute and 25-second video live stream. Right on, Jitesh. Thank you for that. We'll make sure we add that to the video notes. Some people thought that I came off as rude in that video, but I was frustrated. If you can imagine, I want to help people. And when people reach out to me asking for help, and I can't respond to them, and I can't tell them I can't respond to them, I'm frustrated. right? I at least want to give them some point of direction where they can help themselves, if nothing else. And by them not even, look, just email yourself and look at what the return address is. See if you can email yourself and reply to yourself. It's a super easy thing to do. And why Microsoft's Windows 10 allows people to configure their Windows 10 mail on services that it doesn't support today in 2020 or even in 2016, it doesn't make any sense. That shouldn't be allowed. So I'm angry at Microsoft because they're supposed to be the easy to use operating system. They're not supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to walk you through to say, you can't do that, you know. And I don't know why they went that. Well, I know why they did it. They did it because more users looks good for the stock price. If it inconveniences the users, too bad. Who asked you? You know, you're not a shareholder. We don't really care about you. Corporations in America that are publicly owned only answer and exist for one reason, and that's to their shareholders and to increase shareholder value. That's all they exist for. And don't ever think it's about you. It's never about you unless you happen to be a shareholder. So this, you know, Windows 10 has come a long way from previous versions of Windows and making it easier to use and self-healing and things of that nature, and drivers have gotten a lot better. But then this creeps its ugly head up. And if it was just one email, you know, so what? And it started that way. And like I said, it's about 2 a day on average. There's maybe some days I get 0 of those and other days I get 4. But on average, I guess about 2 a day from people I am unable to respond to. In some cases, people have contributed through PayPal or clearly not here on Super Chat because I don't have a receipt of it. And I can Google, or not Google, I can search their name in my email to look for a contribution and then see what email address they used. I was able to locate some people that way. Most of the people that reach out, they've never given anything. They've never given $1 to the channel, not a dime. But I still want to help them. But I have no way to even know who they are or how to find them when they have not configured their email properly. And I can't help but wonder, don't they realize nobody can respond to them? Aren't they suspicious why they're not getting any replies? So I don't know what's going through their minds. So out of my frustration, I said, look, I've been meaning to talk about this for a long time. It just happened. Let me grab a screenshot so I can demonstrate what it looks like. Let me make a video on it real quick and let me get it off my chest, because in the hopes that the people who are doing this will see the video and correct it. That's the only way I can communicate with them. So what you saw was me being very frustrated, shaking my head, wondering how does the user not realize they're not getting replies? How does Microsoft allow a configuration to an incompatible system to proceed without saying, hey, this isn't going to work, and preventing the user from completing the setup? And how can I communicate back to somebody I want to communicate with other than by making a video and I hope they watch it? And so if that came across as any other thing than frustrated, then you misinterpreted it. And so I think people who know me well, who've been a regular viewer of this channel, certainly understood why I did that. It wasn't to belittle or demean anybody. It was to educate people and communicate to people who otherwise I cannot communicate with, but they have made attempts to communicate with me, and they might think I'm ignoring them. They might think I'm a jerk. They might think that I never got their email. I don't know what they're thinking, because I can't talk back to them because they don't have their email configured correctly and they don't realize it, and Microsoft let them do it. Frustration. David Humphreys says, I saw the video and I will use Gmail now. There you go. I think David's email was the one. Now see, and if it was that David, that it's me, this is the only way I can talk to him right now. You understand? Without me making that video, he would just assume I never got it or I ignored him. So I'm sorry if you didn't like it, but it wasn't for you if you're not affected by it. And it had nothing to do with you if you aren't on the receiving side of it in my shoes. See my buddy Ron in there. Ron is a friend of mine for a long time. I have not looked at your suggestions on the build I'm going to do. That's going to go back to Ron. I haven't had time for it, but just go ahead and put your suggestions in there and we'll find something after I've got to finish Joey's computer next, and then Valentine's computer, and then I've got 2 Michaels I have to build for. I want to remind you the Xenos build that I've been talking about for like 4 years now. Friday. Get a nice haircut, nice button-down shirt. Bring Mitch over here. It's a very important video. I hope you'll join me for it. Friday afternoon. Spamopolis has contributed $2. He goes, 2 for Tuesday. Great job, Kerry. Hey, thank you, Spamopolis. All right, guys. Just about 10 more minutes left for any lingering questions. If I didn't see your question earlier, I'm going to ask you to post your question again, because I can't scroll back that far. And I will do my best to, if I can't provide you an answer, I'll tell you how you can look up the answer or where you can seek other sources of information other than myself. And of course, there's plenty of smart people in the chat room that may also be able to answer your question. Have you ever installed Windows 10 with 2 hard drives on it? It will install to both hard drives. No, it doesn't install to both hard drives unless the hard drives are too small, or unless you have configured, or the manufacturer of the PC has some special configuration. But by default, Windows 10 will not do that in and of itself. You have to make it do that. And it's funny to me because somebody will have some weird thing I've never heard of happen to them, and then they think, you better talk about this to your audience because it happened to me, and it might have happened to 3 other people on the planet, or people who bought product from the same place I bought it during the same time I bought it. If you have an issue with that, take it up with the manufacturer of your PC. That has nothing to do with Microsoft. It has nothing to do with 2 hard drives. I install here on this channel live with multiple hard drives. Windows 10 does not install on both of them. So this is, again, just because this weird thing happened to you, it's very strange and it's limited to the manufacturer of your computer. I can guarantee that's not a computer you built. That's something the manufacturer did, and you should take that to them. It's very unusual and not worth discussion because, I want to talk about topics that affect most people, not about topics that affect some little tiny percentage. This sort of narcissism of, oh, it happened to me, so you better warn everybody because there might be one other person on the planet. No, I try to, just because something happens to you doesn't mean it's common and is worthy of discussion. Just talk to your manufacturer and maybe don't buy from them anymore. Little Sam's contributed £9, 99p. Watching your channel for years, built my first computer in 2013 using parts you used that year. Very helpful. Right on, Little Sam. Hey, thank you for the support. I appreciate that. Steve Shore says, your channel is very entertaining and informative. Keep up the good work. Hey, thank you, Steve. And Ron is saying, thanks to all that have made and are making a parts list for my future system. Right on. Randy wants to know, what are some of the major problems I might encounter building a computer using an old HP computer case? You may not have front port USB 3.0. Your front port umbilical wiring might be different. You may have to rewire it. The case may not support just any motherboard. Some of the HP cases don't allow for the installation of a certain amount of hardware, so you may only be able to put 1 hard drive in or 1 SSD. You may not have the motherboard fit in it. Sometimes the rear I/O is permanent. It's cut into the case versus a panel that comes out. Depends on the model of HP. You could have depth issues with regards to a cooler and what coolers will fit in that case. Ultimately, I think it's probably a waste of money to try and recycle an old case like that. I think you'd be better off buying a cheap no-name brand case off Newegg or Amazon rather than try and recycle any pre-manufactured computer with new parts. you're taking something that was specifically designed for those parts and you're trying to change all the parts in it. And depending on which HP it is, it could be easy. It could be the biggest regret you've ever had, all for saving $40, I can't recommend you entertain that. It's still, even if it works, it's still going to very much limit what you can do with it. You're not going to put a liquid cooler in it. You're not going to put a big air cooler on it. You're not going to be able to put a bunch of hard drives in it. You're not going to be able to necessarily upgrade the front USB. And you're going to be limited, again, with the size motherboard you can put in there and if it will align properly. So good luck. Enjoy your little project. Little Sam says, I plan on building a new computer this year using some of the parts from the Beast video. I can tell you, if you ever listen to Mike Tech Show, he's been just raving about how awesome his computer is, which tickles me. I love it. It's music to my ears. I'm so happy that he's happy. And I know it's a good machine. KM says, Carrie, I sent you an email at TechVets a week or so back asking if you had any hard drives or parts that you'd sell so I can use to get my basic daily driver computers to people in need in my area. I probably get about 10 emails a week asking people will give me, I live in poverty, I don't have anything, I'm disabled, blah, 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 blah. If you have any extra parts laying around, this channel's been up now for 12, 13 years. There's nearly 30 million views. The idea that you think you're the first person who's ever asked me that is like, what? I don't understand. Nobody's ever asked me that? Like, there's been a lot of people constantly asking me this question, and I generally just erase those emails. I don't even answer them anymore. I'm so sick of that. I think if you've watched this channel, and you've been a regular here, you've already heard this answer. People that have been here can tell you, I've mentioned this so many times. I don't make parts. I'm not a manufacturer. I don't sell parts. I'm not a retailer. I build computers, I upgrade computers, and I repair computers using parts that I recommend purchased by the customer. That's all I do. So sometimes people will submit parts to me, but they don't just submit anything to me. They have to talk to me first. It's not like random parts are showing up. I know what's expected. And I will often tell people those parts are too old. Don't waste your money shipping them. Take them to a local place to donate them or recycle them. I cannot use them. Thank you for the offer. I don't have a very big house. I don't have a place to store this stuff. And I wouldn't encourage people pay for the shipping. Then I'm going to hold on to it, store it somewhere, somehow know where it is and what it is, test it, know that it works, put it in a box, pack it, and then ship it to you at my expense so that you can get it and start asking me a bunch of technical support questions for free, or complain that the parts don't work, or where is the package? I thought you sent it. Do you have a tracking? No. Just no. I can tell you that there's a great source for off-lease business computers where you can buy an off-lease computer that's like 3 or 4 years old at Second Chance IT, and they sell on Amazon. But you don't have to buy necessarily from them. Just go to Amazon and type in, like a popular one is a Dell Optiplex 8020. So type in Optiplex 8020 in Amazon search, and you'll see how they're configured in different footprints. And they range anywhere from $100 to $200. And that often includes the price of shipping, and often includes Windows 10 Professional. And the shipping in Windows 10 are usually $200 if you were to buy them yourself. So like the computer ends up being free. And the computer's fully tested, it was working in a business, and you know it was well maintained. And it won't be something that will go obsolete tomorrow if you make sure you buy a minimum Core i5 with 8 gigs of memory, even DDR3, who cares? It's going to be fast and reliable for a good 3-4 years. Especially if you change out the hard drive with an SSD. But you don't have to do that right away. Make that a If it's hard for you to part with 150 bucks, save it up, buy it, and then save up another 50 bucks and buy an SSD in the future, and then upgrade it yourself, clone the drive, super easy, great experience, and you'll have a really good machine. Not some used crap somebody was going to throw away and said, here, do you want this? Off the subject, but other than the $300 data recovery, where can I get data recovered off a hard drive? There's plenty of big name companies like OnTrack and Data Doctors who will gladly charge you $800 to $2,000 for data recovery. I'm not aware of any data recovery company in the world that has a base price of $300. I'm not aware of anything even remotely close to that. Furthermore, I can't speak for the quality of the work or the timeliness of the work. I was so intrigued at how unique $300 data recovery was that I went out there and requested an interview and became very friendly with the owner and got to know him quite well, and have since interviewed him again. And he's still doing gangbusters and is one of the highest rated, I think the highest rated data recovery company in the world on Yelp. So he's the cheapest, he is the fastest with regards to that price anyway, because nobody will do it at any time for that price that I'm aware of, and the highest rated. So if you're asking me who's second to that, big corporations that won't operate as fast or as cheap. Look up the price at OnTrack and see what price you can get. I don't know why you wouldn't send it to $300 data recovery. I don't know what you think. What are you looking for? What reason is it that you don't want to go to $300 data recovery? If you think you can find something faster, closer, or cheaper, well, let me know when you find it. Understand the guy at $300 data recovery has over $250,000 worth of specialty equipment. So if you want to make the investment and do it yourself, I don't know how that's saving you any money. You still have to have the education to learn how to use it after you paid for it. The only way that works for him is he does a large volume. Otherwise, the whole thing doesn't make sense. Kevin Napier has contributed 5 pounds. Says, hey, Carey, I hope you're good. I've managed to finally buy both of your tools from D7X Tech. I really appreciate them. Right on, Kevin. I have to tell you, I am personally loving my Netflix tool. It has saved me so much time. I can't even begin to explain it. There's a lot of people out there that'll be like, why would you buy Carey's tool if you could do this yourself? A lot of people don't want to do it themselves. A lot of people are like, I don't have time for that, or I just simply don't want to. Carey's got a tool for 12 bucks. I could click a button and it just fixes it for me. Why in the world would I want to sit down and code all this code out and double check my work and then take time to polish it and do all of it? Well, you certainly can. There's no magic in it. There's no magic in it. And I didn't make it to sell it. Just like the optimizer, I made it for myself. I don't have time to sit around and goof off like that. I'm not going to type in arcane commands in PowerShell and one letter is off and I got to retype the whole thing again, or hit the up arrow and go back and backspace or delete depending which way I need to move and then correct it. I could already be done with 3 machines. So when your time is worth less than mine, I'm not here to tell you. I'm not here to tell you my tool is superior. I'm here to tell you I made this for myself. I find value in it. If you do, buy it. If you don't, don't. What do I care? So I'm happy, Kevin. I'm happy that you, along with several hundred other people, have paid for the tool and said, wow, this is amazing. And for that, I am grateful that you guys see the value, because there's a lot of people on the internet who think I'm some, snake oil salesman getting rich off of $12. I don't know what people think. I don't know how it harms them. It's not spyware. It's not going to damage your computer. But they will stand up and just insult the heck out of me. So What am I going to do? Just complete strangers that I don't even know in real life. I've never met them. They just decided I'm the devil, and it's their duty now to make sure everybody knows. Okay? So when I see messages like yours, it makes me feel good because I got to deal with the other side of it. Little Sam says, how do I get a Go Faster badge? Go to carrieholzman.com. Jitesh has put a link into Second Chance IT and their eBay page. Okay, I didn't realize they're on eBay. I know they're in Amazon. Thanks, Jitesh. Andrew says, I love using the optimizer tool. I know, me too. Let's see. I watch your videos because some of them are funny and I get info on new technology. Hey, all my videos are funny. How dare you? I may have a solution for a new office that I might be renting a house specifically and only for the use of making videos. Now that I've priced studio, I have a friend of mine who has a vacant house, and it's really complicated. I can't really get into it too much. It's a personal family issue where they're sort of locked into, they can't just rent or sell the house. They need court approval. It's a conservatorship. It's this whole thing. And the siblings are not wanting to get along, so whatever one sibling does, the other sibling says, you know, I'm going to battle you on that. So if everything works out, it might benefit me and a friend of mine, at least temporarily. It won't be a permanent solution. I'm not buying the house, at least not yet. I don't want the house. It's an old house and it needs a lot of work, and I'm too old for that. But for a quick solution, it's available. It's 20 times bigger than the space I was looking at. It's equally as far away, no issues with parking, it will be secure, and it'll cost half as much. So it'll be an added monthly expense, which I'm nervous about because not only do I have rent, but I'll have another electric bill, another water bill, another internet bill. But even all that added up is still far less than what the office space I was looking at wanted to charge me. And I won't have the issues with noisy landscapers, dogs barking, deliveries in the middle of the day. So it'll resolve the interruptions. It's got a nice big kitchen. I can film in there. But it is a big empty house, so it's very echoey, and I'll have to resolve that. But at this point now, it's just a planted seed, and it could go either way. It's 50-50 whether or not this can work. So I may end up broadcasting from another location. I would still broadcast from here once in a while, but if I can broadcast over there, I could broadcast later at night. I can have full equipment set up full time. I don't have to tear it down. Lighting and everything strung out because there won't be anybody living in the house. I'll be able to treat it like a studio. You know, I can leave all the camera equipment permanently hooked up. That's less time in my day having to dismantle things and reassemble things and recable things. Just do it once and hit a switch and say go, and I'm ready to go live. It's very appealing to me. Again, the house needs a lot of work, so I don't know how much more work I have to pile on my plate to get over there to make it doable. And right now, things are so busy, I don't have time. But if he says yes, I'll make the time. I just won't sleep. You know, I'll go over there and do what I need to do so I can get in there ASAP. And we'll see how long it takes before I go completely insane. Because I have to do everything myself. So all the work that has to be done, I'll have to do. But it'll be an investment that'll be worth it, at least for the short term. Long term, don't know yet. In fact, the internet there may be much better than it is here. Getting an apartment won't work. An apartment is too noisy. There's too many uncontrolled sounds in an apartment. The internet is often shared in an apartment. The walls are often too thin. I don't need all my neighbors watching me hauling in and hauling out thousands of dollars worth of computer equipment and wondering what's in that apartment when I'm not there. There's no privacy in an apartment, and there's no controlling the sound. If there's kids running and screaming, nothing you can do about it. If dog's barking and it's your neighbor's dog, too bad. If a pipe bursts, too bad. Yeah, so an apartment will not work. It has to be a secured, quiet, private location, whether it's an office complex, preferably on a second floor or above, or a private home in a secure neighborhood, in a safe neighborhood, not in a bad part of town, and ideally not off a major road where people driving by can. This is Phoenix, folks. People will jump out of their cars and pull on door handles in the middle of the day. And if your door's not locked on your car in your driveway in the middle of the afternoon, don't even think about 3 o'clock in the morning. They're doing it at all hours of the day and night. If your garage door is open, they'll slow down and take a look in that garage as they drive by to see if there's anything in there they might want to come back for later. So you don't want to leave your garage door open. If you leave your doors unlocked on your car, you leave your windows rolled up and you close your doors, they'll just come by and they're very quiet and they just gently pull on the handle if the door opens. They'll take sunglasses, loose change. If you've got anything in the car worth taking. Some people have loaded weapons in their glove box in Arizona. They'll take your gun. They don't care. And they'll be in and out in 2 minutes. By the time you hear the sound, go to your door, they're already taken off. So I don't want to be somewhere that's a high traffic area or in a bad part of town. Phoenix is really, really bad that way. There's a lot of drug use, alcohol abuse, and a lot of theft. And a lot of people, perhaps, that shouldn't be here at all and are not in the system. So I would rather not invite that. I'd rather sort of blend in and just look like an average Joe coming and going, and ideally be on a neighborhood, side street somewhere where you're not going to have cars racing up and down the street and gunshots being fired and cars doing donuts in the middle of the road. This is some stuff I'm dealing with right in front of my own house on occasion. And it's getting pretty bad. They're doing street takeovers now. They have a Twitter called Sunday Fun Day, and it's just a bunch of stupid kids with their spoiled, rotten parents giving them fancy cars, and they just peel out and do donuts and ruin tires and make extreme noise and set off fireworks. The friends come by because they think it's cool. Some of those people have gotten hit by those cars because they're standing too close, and they say, well, if you don't want to take the risk, don't show up, which of course is completely illegal and lawless. And there's a lot of pressure on the police to put a stop to it because they'll take over entire intersections and shut the intersection down until the police show up. When the police show up, they scatter like cockroaches because they're all a bunch of little cowards. But they're acting like the law does not pertain to them and they don't have to obey the same rules the rest of us do. And this is a significant part of Phoenix culture. And it's one of the reasons I want to go back to Michigan. It's bad, and it's getting worse. Or maybe I'm just getting older and cranky, but it's like, I never did that. We never did that. So why is it being done to me? Where's the justification? Why are you doing this to me? What have I ever done to you? This neighborhood is an older, more established neighborhood, and it's the house is kind of buried in the neighborhood, so it's not like a through street or a major road where people will be buzzing by like they do here. This whole deal could not happen, so I don't want to talk too much about it because it may all be for nothing. But I'm hoping my friend will have good news for me. I think it'll help him and it'll help me, and it'll be a little change for the better for the channel, or certainly a new experience if nothing else. If it doesn't work, we've agreed to each other that there'll be a 30-day notice. If he needs me out or if I need to go, 30 days. No, he'll always be a friend no matter what. Rich says, come on over to the east side. Chandler is a nice town. Well, Chandler's new. Chandler is a fairly new city with regards to the development that's occurred there. When I worked at Intel, Intel was in Chandler. And when I drove there, it was mostly just dirt fields. Now when I drive on Chandler Boulevard, I don't even recognize it. There's like plants and landscaping, trees that weren't there. Buildings weren't there. Like if you just blindfolded me and said, "Where are you?" I'd be like, "Well, it's definitely not Chandler." Yes, it is. That is booming. What happens in Phoenix is it starts in Phoenix and it grows outward like this. And people will tell you, "Well, I moved here in 1960, there were cotton fields." I'm here telling you, when I moved here in 1980, there were cotton fields. You're not finding many cotton fields anymore, and it just keeps expanding outward. When somebody says, "I live way on the west side of town," that's considered pretty close now. Now when they say way on the west side of town, they're like 45 minutes away from Phoenix traveling towards California. You're like, holy smokes, that's a long drive to work every day. Chandler's exactly the same way. It's east. You're going further the opposite way. The city's building outward like a big explosion. It doesn't start out over here and a little over here and a little over here. Nope. It starts in the center and it just expands outward. And where this used to be sort of being out of city limits, now this is considered, you've got to go beyond these borders to be without city limits. In 20 years from now, it'll be like this. They have to keep adding more freeways. It's really crowded. It's people cutting each other off in traffic, shooting each other. Every day there's a shooting, at least 2 or 3 on the freeways. Every day, at least one pedestrian is hit by a car, and at least one out of every 2 or 3 times, it's a hit and run where the driver keeps driving and never stops. This is every single day. The people are too stupid to know, hey, I shouldn't cross the road in the middle of the night, not in a crosswalk, and not paying attention. And the people driving the cars are too stupid to think I should pay attention and not drive while I'm intoxicated or on drugs. And the two collide. And who do you think wins in that collision? I'm so done with Phoenix, can you tell? It is not the way I was raised. So anyway, I know that moving to a nicer part of town would probably change my view. But for what that's going to cost me, I might as well just go back to Michigan. Just move one time and be done with it. So I'm sort of stuck here until I'm ready to go back home. It's a very lawless area. Phoenix is very lawless. Javier says it sounds like Miami. It very well may be. I don't know. I've never lived in Miami. Carrie, what about a good gated storage unit for your studio? Again, if you want, go to abc15.com if you want to look at the daily news that I see from the local ABC News affiliate. Gates don't stop people, man. Gates, they just get some wire bolt cutters and they're in there in 2 minutes. That's not secure. It's got to be secure, and that means putting it in a good part of town, or at least a decent part of town. So obviously a bad part of town's cheaper, but the risk is too much. I used to work at a place where we used to have to call the police to have them come move the homeless people because it was too dangerous for us to attempt to make contact with them because they might violently attack you. But they would be asleep in front of the door and I couldn't open the business because I couldn't open the door. And if you try to talk to them, they're just unconscious, maybe they're dead. So you have to call the police, wait for the police to show up, and you might have customers waiting, like, how come you didn't open on time? I couldn't. There's a homeless person sleeping at the door. I can't move him. So that's been going on since the 80s. It's only gotten worse. The homeless population here is really, really bad. There's not good resources for them either. And a lot of the people who claim to be homeless aren't homeless at all. They're just scamming. So, yeah. It's very rare I can even go to a gas station without somebody approaching me asking me if I can spare a few bucks for a gallon of gas. Almost every gas station in every part of the town, every time I get gas, I must have that face that I look like I'm somebody you should ask for cash. Sometimes I see the same guy. When I go to the same gas station, I see the same guy with the same story. He's clearly making it up. We have a guy here that says, help me bury my son. He's holding a sign, help me bury my son. This guy's got a Facebook page dedicated to him. The help me bury my son guy. People have been following this guy asking for money to help bury his son for 5 years. When they confront him, and they often do, and they record it on their phones, he says he's somebody else. They're confusing him with somebody else. This guy is dedicated. Nothing anybody says to him, all the videos they show of him doing it years ago, he says, nope, that's not me. Abdul Azim Patel has contributed $5. Similar almost every day here in the Bay Area. It's a darn shame. Well, the Bay Area in California, so you're looking at, so when people, sometimes people are confused about these terms Americans use about California. Southern California would be Los Angeles or San Diego. Central California would be like Bakersfield. I think that would be about right. Then you have the Bay Area, which is not necessarily Northern California. The Bay Area would be like Silicon Valley. Trying to think of some famous cities. Where was Clint Eastwood the mayor or the governor? Where was that? He was a mayor of Carmel. And there's another city right there, Monterey. That's all the Bay Area. As you enter into, say, San Francisco, they'll still call that the Bay Area, but you're sort of at the top of it. And then beyond that, when you get into like Sacramento, then you're into Northern California. California is such a big state that we often use terms to describe a specific region that people who don't live or are familiar with the Western United States have no idea what that means. Like, I never knew for a long time what the Bay Area was. I just, oh, the Bay Area, okay. Andrew Dorset has contributed $5 New Zealand dollars. Says, thanks for all your knowledge, Uncle Kerry. So I was going to say the Bay Area is very expensive. So it makes sense that there's homeless people there because, as I mentioned earlier, $100,000 a year and you're living in poverty. I forget what they said the minimum salary needed to just kind of meet poverty levels, I think was $130,000. I can't remember. I mean, you can't even park your car without paying money there. It's very, very crowded, very, very expensive. Lou Greenia says, I'll stay here in Vermont, thanks. Yes, because Vermont's mostly empty. So who wouldn't want to be from Vermont if you enjoy peace and serenity? Some people want to be where it's happening, the city that never sleeps. They want to be in New York. They can be out till 4 o'clock in the morning every night, having a party at a different place every single night. There's always something going on. And other people are like, that sounds like a complete nightmare. That's me. Get me as far away from that as possible. London, Chicago. Actually, Chicago is a very friendly city when you're in Chicago downtown. As you start going to like the south side, things like that, things get a little sketchy. Little Sam says, I'm starting up my YouTube channel again. Should I use an i7 or an i9 for the streaming PC? What's the best? Well, it depends on what you want to stream, but I think even an i5 would be just fine for streaming. I'm running a Core, what am I running? I'm running a Ryzen 2700X on the streaming computer that I'm broadcasting to you on now, and my CPU usage is less than 1%, so it doesn't take much. At least not for 1080. If you want to broadcast in 4K, going to need a little more power than that. I mean, more percentage of use. You probably don't need more processor power. More of the processor will be used. I don't have the bandwidth. My internet service provider doesn't offer me anything, nor does any other service provider in my area that would enable me to go to 4K as of yet. Not live. I can record a 4K video and edit it and then publish it, but I can't go live with it, because I can't keep up the constant bit rate that it needs. But an upload, the upload can take hours, and then when it's done, could be a half an hour video that took me 3 hours to upload, but it'll be 4K all the way through with a solid bit rate. And so for that editing of that sort of content, that length of that quality, you'd want a faster processor and more memory. So. And yeah, if you plan on gaming and streaming at the same time, that's a different story. If you're just turning on a camera like I am, you don't need much. Joel wants to know, I'm starting my YouTube channel. Can I get some advice on how to make my videos better? Don't talk to me. I have crappy videos. There are searches you can do on YouTube, like how to make better YouTube videos, or how to do better editing, how to use Adobe Premiere, or how to use iMovie or whatever. And they come from people in the industry and other people that are just like you, that just started, and they're sharing what they know. And they're not experts. They can only tell you their own equipment, not anybody else's. But if their equipment matches yours and you're on the same page with them, they may be a great resource for you. But pretty much any filmmaking techniques, television making techniques, cinematography techniques are all useful information. Depends how much time and money you have to spend and to invest in it. What's shocking to me is I can make a video with a handheld camera showing how to make a $5 pizza, and I can make that video in 10 minutes, let's say. Or I can make a video showing the Xenos build that takes 3 days and $6,000 and get the same number of views and effectively make the same amount of money. Yet the amount of effort involved is very different. Like, I can put in 40 hours of work in one video, and I can put in 10 minutes of work in another video. And it's quite possible that the video I spent 10 minutes on that cost me nothing to make and little effort performs as well or better than the video I spent time and money on. And once you experience that, you might think differently about how important it is to make your videos better quality. You know what I mean? Better cameras and better microphones do not make for better content. They're not going to get you any more clicks. It's not sustainable. So it's something you grow into, depending on the platform. Like, are you going to be a vlogger? Are you going to be a streamer? Are you going to be an educator? Or kind of videos are you going to make? Interactive videos, 3D videos, 360-degree videos, 4K videos, how-to videos. It all depends. People that do like makeup application, helps to have a really good camera so they can see the before and after and the details. Other things where they're showing the construction of a house, quality doesn't really matter. It's not like you need to clearly see the nail going through the wood. You know what I mean? Guy swinging a hammer, we got it. So there's no one answer for that, unfortunately. You just sort of get in there, do your thing, use the search on YouTube, and find the content that relates to you. The cameras I'm using right now, I need you to understand, guys, that I'm on my 7th generation of camera. I have upgraded cameras 7 times in 12 years. I went from standard definition to high definition to larger lenses, bigger lenses, bigger lenses. And now I've got a 4K camera. I've got 3 of them. That's the Canon XF400. And it's, so the Canon XF400 is $2,500. It takes 2 memory cards that cost about $70 each. It sits on a $120 heavy tripod that won't easily tip over or it'll break my camera. The tripod head is cheap, so that's replaced with a Manfrotto $110 smooth swivel and tilt. Otherwise it creaks and it groans and it's terrible. And then on top of that, the microphone that I'm wearing is a $600 wireless microphone. And then the lapel mic itself I've replaced with a $600 DPA Professional Series microphone. So just in audio, there's over $1,200. There's over $7,500 in cameras. There's over $300 in tripods, over $300 in tripod heads. There's over $500 in memory cards. I've got a number of different cables that enable me to cable this all up. Then, of course, there's the computer that makes it happen, the internet connection. So these free videos that you're watching are costing me a bundle, which wouldn't have been possible without the generosity of a very small percentage of you. Guys like David, guys like Peter, guys like Steven, guys like John Jack, guys like, God, it bothers me when I can't think of some of the generous contributors. You know, it's not like they're less important. Other times it's the small contributions that add up. But when people enable me to move forward faster, they enable the channel to move into this equipment faster. This didn't happen overnight. This is slowly growing, and it's only growing faster recently because of the generosity of some of the viewers that see the value in it. I would not be able to afford this equipment now based on what YouTube pays me. I would eventually have it slower. I also fail to mention the microphones. I have to have one for me. I have to have one for a guest, so that doubles the price. I have to have rechargeable AA batteries, 2 in the receiver and 2 in the sending unit. Those have to be recharged, which requires a big battery charger because I got to do 8 or 16 at a time. You want me to keep going? The expenses in this, the editing software is updated every year. I'm using Cyberlink Power Director for the edits. And then I've got my sister editing, so she's got a computer. I have to buy software for her. I have to pay for all of that. And then I have to pay her for her time. So I have to give her the tools that she needs, which is a computer and the software, so that she can do the amazing edits and these amazing intros that she's making. And that's thousands of dollars. And then, of course, I have to pay her every month for her work. So what does that leave for me at the end of the month? Hopefully enough to just keep going, you know. And I'm trying to avoid sponsors. I may not have a choice unless I limit my growth. If I say, okay, I'm fine here, we'll just stay here, I can get above the water. But right now, I'm not under it. I'm just on it. I'm good. But I'm not buying that yacht anytime soon. It would be foolish to make this investment if you're just starting out, because you may not like it. I wouldn't put $10,000 in a YouTube channel that I just haven't tried out. Use a webcam and a built-in mic and build your audience. Save your money. Slowly go like I did. I went from standard definition to high definition. I went from no microphone using the in-camera mic to a wired lapel mic, to a wireless mic, to a better wireless mic, to a better wireless mic. So the money I was saving by not buying the expensive stuff ultimately cost me more money, because I bought, instead of buying one $600 microphone, I bought one $100 microphone, I bought a $20 microphone, I bought a $150 microphone, and I end up giving that stuff away to friends and people that I know that can benefit from it, because I have no use for it anymore. And it ultimately, I spent far more than $600, which I would have just done that out of the gate, would have saved money over the long run, but I didn't have it. So ideally, I'll look back on this equipment as like, there's nothing. You know, I want my $275,000 camera used in television production, you know, something like that, where the lens is $210,000 just for the lens. That's what they typically use on TV or movies. You can go right here on YouTube and type in, why are professional, or why are TV cameras so big and expensive? And this kid breaks it all down. And suddenly this equipment seems cheap now. With that perspective, knowing that television companies will have multiple cameras. Many sitcoms are 3-camera sitcoms. And, you know, you've got to have script writers, editors, set designers, lighting designers, grips, boom holders, the camera operator, cinematographer, director of photography. Yeah, and everybody has on the payroll. Gets expensive real quick. The little adapter for this microphone, it's got a little metal adapter, it's probably $5. That adapter is $99, and if you want to play, you got to pay. It makes no sense why that adapter is $99. It's for film production. So in film production, $99 is considered a dime. You know, it's like, it's pocket change. Just buy it. But as an electronics person, I know that adapter is $5 every day. You know, if I could make it myself, it'd be $5 worth of material. But what choice do I have? You want to use that microphone? You need this adapter, and it's $99. So pay for it or don't use it. All right, now I've gone 15 minutes over past what I said I was going to do, but that's okay. I enjoy talking to you guys. Carrie, you've got a lot of overhead. It takes a lot to run your show. Yes, it does take a lot. And furthermore, I'm the only employee. I mean, apart from my sister who does work when she feels like it, she's not on any set schedule. If I need to have something done, anything, I have to do it myself. And that includes everyday life. That includes laundry, dishes, burnt out light bulbs. My garage door opener broke. I had to take it apart. I don't know anything about fixing garage doors, but I couldn't afford to replace it, and I just took it apart. Went on eBay. I found the circuit board. There's only one circuit board. I'm like, I'll just change that. Got the part 2 or 3 days later, plugged it in. It worked. I put it all back together, fixed. What was it? Don't know. How did I fix it? I have no idea. What cables did I plug back in? Don't know. I just plugged the same cables back in the same places. I don't know what they do. But I get my car out of the garage now without having to manually lift it up and close it by hand. So you just, you know, it piles on, you know. And that's okay. That keeps me busy. And keeping busy is what keeps you out of jail. That's what I say. Mike Gordon contributed $2. Hey, thank you, Mike. Hugh Wong contributed $5. Says, sorry I'm late, busy at work. Good to hear you again. I'm on the way home. Right up. AIW has contributed $2. He says, a buddy moved from Phoenix to Safford and loves it. Safford is a little town in the middle of nowhere. I'd rather not. See, Reverend John O'Toole had talked about some networking issues he had. Reach out to me, John, and see if you and I can talk. I know John, so I'll do things for him. I don't just offer to anybody. And I'm kind of curious to learn more about what your networking issue is. Usually this stuff is pretty simple. Because if my networking tool didn't fix it, there's probably some little something, you know. Earl Miller has contributed $2. Thank you, Earl. Mark Y has contributed $2. Says, thank you for my therapy. It's nice to know I'm not alone. It is nice to know that, isn't it? No, you're definitely not alone. None of you are alone here. We're all a community. And hopefully we look out for each other in a supportive and kind way. I think that covers everything. I'm going to give a shout out once again to everybody who's contributed so I can wrap up today. Mark Y, Mike Gordon, Hugh Wong, Al W, Earl Miller, Abdul Azim Patel, Andrew Dorset, Kevin Napier, Little Sam, Spamopolis, a newcomer 8771, Bear Paw, Michael Dane, Ben Stroud, Skyflyer 14, and Brendan Looney. I always have video notes chock full of information below the video, and always be sure to check on those if you would. Anytime you enjoy content on YouTube, you can let the creator know you want to see more content by, there's a little up thumb that you can click and turn blue. Even if you watch on a TV, you just got to hit the other buttons on your remote. Usually it's an up, down arrow, something like that. And that will lead you to see other options you may not be seeing otherwise. And that will enable you to hit that thumbs up button. Many people, most viewers, cannot be bothered to do something as simple as click. They can't be bothered. So I go through I just told you what I have to go through to film and all the money, and they can't do this. Oh well. It doesn't really mean a whole lot to me as far as money goes. It doesn't change how much money I make. But if a video gets a lot of likes, it may be put higher up in search results. That's all. So for new people to find me, that's all it does. If you like my content and you want to be made aware anytime new content is posted or anytime I go live, there is a big subscribe button just like that. In fact, let me move that out of the way. Where did it go? Come here. Come back. Move you. Why can I not find it? Come on. Put it down there. Yeah, so by hitting the subscribe button, a little bell icon appears right there. And then when you click that bell over there, that turns the notifications on. If you're not getting notifications, make sure the bell is checked. If you're still not getting notifications, you probably don't have a Gmail account. Not that you have to, but your email service may be blocking them. So open up a free Gmail account and assign that to YouTube, because YouTube and Gmail are all owned by Google. And if you want, you can auto-forward your Gmail mail to your regular email address. That should fix notification issues. You can even assign your phone so that your phone will alert you when I'm live. That's what my phone does. And it's good to have your phone number in there for secondary account authentication, so nobody can take over your YouTube channel, because your phone would require a code that they would have to get within 2 minutes or 3 minutes, or they can't get in. Navy Retired contributed $2. He says, have a Coke on me. And Joe Spindler has contributed $10. He says, I love your optimizer tool, Carrie. I used it on a German version of Windows this morning and had no issue. Well, that's good to know. Thank you, Joe. I'm glad that you find it useful. And I had no idea if it would work on other versions, other languages of Windows 10, but that's good to know. I certainly don't promise that it will work on all languages, but apparently it works in German. So I want to thank all of you again for joining me, hanging out. And thanks to Michael Brooks and to Ryan in Nevada for sending these components that I will put away for a future giveaway. All my friends in blue, thanks for helping keep it civil from the scumbags that jump into an open chat room as if they were invited and start trying to dominate the place. I appreciate you shutting them down pretty darn quick. Keeps my life a little less stressful. And if you're new here and you notice there's a lot of people in blue, don't be jealous. I would love to turn you blue too. It's very easy. Just be friendly and supportive to other people in the chat room. Don't criticize somebody's part selection. Don't call somebody a derogatory name. Just don't be a jerk. That's all. And if I see you often enough and notice you're not being a jerk, but rather I see you're being supportive and kind to people, I will turn you blue so I recognize you in the future. And it happens over time. Some people who contribute generously, that's another way of showing that you're a friend of the channel, you're not here to cause harm. Trolls don't contribute, you know what I mean? Not financially. So there's other ways that I can determine and separate out the good people from the bad people, but because it's the internet, I'm very cautious. Thank you so much again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's broadcast. I'll be back with a live build tomorrow it'll be tomorrow. It'll be later in the day though, if I have time for it, which I hope I do because I am really backed up. I'm going to get Joey's computer done tonight and try and get that shipped out for him. So I'm going to do that now, a little cable management, some Windows activation, and get it buttoned up and get it over to FedEx. And Joey's out there in Thousand Oaks, California, so that's not too far from here. Sometimes I worry about how the computer is going to arrive when I ship it to the East Coast. So anytime somebody in California or Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Oregon, Washington, those aren't too far. I don't worry too much. The minute we're starting to go to like the East Coast, my concern about damage occurring in shipping is always a bit more anxiety. So this one I'm not worried about. I know it's going to arrive perfect, and I know Joey's going to be super happy with it. And so I better get to work on it because Joey's counting on me. He's waiting. So thanks, you guys. I will talk to you all. Ideally, I'll see you tomorrow with a new build. Until then, bye for now.